playing with Starfire? My, how they stare. Let's end this on a high note. None shall tread upon the stars. Never stand in the path of a star.
What is up guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to play the new reworked Aurelion Soul. This is what a lot of people, including myself, have been waiting for, because he's finally the late game champion that he was supposed to be. So the way you play him now is that you have this passive stacking system. And the more stacks you get, the stronger all of your abilities are going to be. So the only thing you want to focus on, especially in the early game, is to get stacks. And the way you get these stacks, either by damaging enemy champions with abilities or killing minions with your E. That's also why you start with the E. So when you drop it down, it's going to drag people towards the center, and when they reach a certain HP threshold, it is going to execute. So you want that E to execute minions because that gives you passive stacks. So when you start with that, and also when it damages enemy champions, it also gives you passive stacks. Remember, because his late game is so OP right now, he used to be that early to mid game champion, but now he's super late game oriented, so his early game is a lot weaker. So the only thing you care about when you play him in the early to mid game, farm well and also get a ton of passive stacks. Remember, your E can also execute enemy champions when they get below that HP threshold. And that threshold is also going to increase based on the amount of stacks that you get. So your Q is that beam that you're shooting out, and for every second that you're able to hold it on a target, it is going to deal extra burst damage based on their maximum health. And that burst damage based on maximum health is also going to increase based on the amount of stacks that you get. So here you're just trying to poke down the minions, and then you want to have your E executing as many as possible. In the early game it can be a bit difficult, but later on it becomes a lot easier and also way faster. And the W is that flight mechanic that you have. The new thing here is that when you take damage, it does not cancel you mid-flight. And it also gets most of the cooldown refunded after a takedown. So you can basically fly in, kill somebody, and then your W will almost be ready for you to go again. And while flight, you can use your abilities, including your Q, your E, and your ultimate. But if you're using your Q while flying, it is going to increase the damage of your Q, but it will slow down your movement speed by a little bit. So you're not getting the tier as your first item, because we are not going to upgrade it as the second. We want to get the Rod of Ages, then we want to get the Rylai's, and then we get the Archangel. So it does not make any sense to get it as the first item. See, that's all you have to do here, guys. Remember, you have to hold down the Q. You cannot tap it. You have to hold it down, and then you want to make sure that it's stacking on the target. For every second, it's fully stacked, meaning that burst damage comes in. So what you have to do in the laning phase is that you try to group up the minions, then you try to drop down the E in the center. As long as the hitbox is within range of all the minions, it's going to drag them in, and then just Q all the minions, because it also deals AoE damage. That way you put them to low HP faster, so your Q can your E can execute. That is going to give you a ton of passive stacks, and that is all you care about. You can see that Q, it got to pop twice with the extra burst damage, so that means that we also got a decent amount of passive stacks. She went a bit ham right there. It's fine though, because we traded flash for flash, so that's super worth it for me. because I still have my W to get out. It can become a bit risky when Lee Sin is level 6 though, because then you cannot use your W out, because he can just kick you. So the ultimate is ready to go, so this is what a lot of people got hyped about. Not this version of the ultimate, but the upgraded one. This one also deals a decent amount of AoE damage, but it does have a delay to it. It is really easy to dodge if they have some sort of mobility in the kit, so if you're trying to use it in a fight, try to make sure that at least they're slowed down or CC'd by something before you use it. So for example, you could drop down the E first and then use the ultimate after. But it does stun them if you manage to hit them of course, so it also helps with CCing the target, but the problem is that it's so delayed that it's so easy to dodge. Now that massive ultimate that people got hyped about when they saw their rework, that is something you only get for every 75 passive stacks. So when you put a point into your ultimate at level 6, from that point and onwards you have to get 75 stacks, then you get to use that Giga ultimate that covers almost the entire map. And when you use that Giga ultimate, it goes back to being a normal ultimate again, and then you will have to gather another 75 passive stacks to get it upgraded once again. So that's how it works. Otherwise it will be a lot more OP than it is currently because it is so insane in fights. There was even a time where I used that Giga ultimate to get a kill in the mid lane, but I also accidentally killed the enemy AD carry in the bot lane with it, even though it was not intended. That's how strong it is. I actually have a video on my Twitter if you're interested in seeing that clip. But that's how strong and also fun it is to play this new rework, because this is what he was supposed to be when he was first reworked, or like released, not reworked. He was that early to mid game champion. It did not make any sense based on his lore. That was a bit weird, but now he is the champion that he was supposed to be, and you can see that Yone right there before we got the kill. His HP bar turned red. You know when somebody is within execution range, for example you're playing Cho'Gath and they are within execution range of your ultimate, it turns red? Same thing here, and it basically means that if they're standing inside your E and they're within that HP threshold, they'll get executed, and that gives you a lot of passive stacks. Remember, as you're getting more Stardust stacks, it is going to execute or like increase the HP threshold. So that's actually really OP later on in the game. Also because the hitbox also becomes pretty insane. Because as you get more stacks, your Q damage, like the burst damage every second, gets upgraded, the W flight range gets upgraded, the E gets upgraded as well, and same for your ultimate. So basically upgrades everything in your kit, and that's why it is so important that all you focus on is getting as many stacks as possible. Level 9 is a massive spike because when you get your Q fully upgraded, you can keep channeling it permanently until you don't have enough mana anymore. So it does not have a maximum cast time or cast duration or whatever you call it. And as you see right there, there's the good thing about that new W, the fact that damage does not make you unable to flight or to stay in the air. So it can be used to escape with as well. And you can see that ultimate, even though I predicted that she was going to jump onto me once again after diving, she was still able to get out because of the delay to it. So it's very difficult to hit early on against high mobile champions. You can just TP back here, but if you're walking back from the base, then from the spawn make sure that you W over the base towers, because it allows you to get back to lane faster. Just drop down the E, in the middle right here, and then you can just keep the queue going because we are level 9, maximum points into that queue, so now we can just keep it going here. As you can see, you can just keep using that Q beam until you don't have any mana left. If you don't hold it down, this is what it looks like. It does nothing, just a waste of mana and does nothing else. Because most of the damage in that Q is when it pops every second on the same target. Now we have 180 stacks. Ideally, you should be able to have way more stacks than you have CS. Because it's not realistic to get like 10 CS per minute every single game. But stacks is something you can always keep super high. Because you don't only need to farm to get them, you can also damage enemy champions with abilities. You can see now is when you really are supposed to get stacks way faster. Because you deal a lot more damage and you can also keep your Q going for as long as you want to. Got 2 massive Q procs off on the Katarina. Now that Giga ultimate is ready, if you look at the ultimate icon right here, it is going to change color, meaning that this massive ult is ready. When it's ready to go, guys, you drop it down in the team fight and it covers an insane part of the map. Basically, you aim at one target in a team fight and you'll hit the entire enemy team. Even if they are far away. On top of that, it also deals increased damage and it also knocks people up. It's just insane the amount of damage that you deal and also the area of effect. Remember, now we're going to get the Rylai's. You can get the tier 2 boots, but I'm just gonna stall it for a little bit. Usually at this point you like to get it though. But we are doing fine this game, so it's alright. And as I said, you want to W back here, so you save some time getting back to lane. Now this ultimate is pretty difficult to dodge, but it's still possible. You know, if there's something that makes them untargetable, or maybe they have Sonya's Hourglass or something, then of course they can dodge it. But it is extremely difficult to outrun, unless they have like a Quinn with 1 billion movement speed. So realistically, in a team fight, you should be able to hit almost the entire enemy team, no matter where they are during the fight. And you can see on the minimap right there, there's the ultimate range, guys. It is absolutely insane, and it is also going to increase based on the stacks that you get. And you see, even though we only went for the Katarina right there with the ultimate, we also ended up hitting the Lee Sin and the Zed too. But that's what makes him really fun to play. The fact that you have access to an ultimate like this, and also because you can keep scaling up. Similar to Veigar, there's no limit to how strong you can get, because you can just keep farming up. But of course the games will end faster, so you're not able to get like 1000 stacks most of the time. I think the highest amount I was able to get was something around 600. But it has to go to super late game for that to be possible. But remember, if you want to deal the highest amount of damage as possible, make sure that you're using your Q while you are flying with your W, because it increases the damage. You can see, even though the Katarina was roaming, I am not going to follow that. We are a late game champion, the only goal we have right now. Farm up well, so you get a lot of gold, but also a lot of passive stacks. I'm just gonna AFK mid, you know, execute the minions with the E, get all those stacks, and then also try to get the tower and the CS. And we are going to get the tower because she's not going to make it back in time. So this is another way that you can punish the opponent for roaming. Now we can go ahead and reset and we can get the Rylai's. The main reason we're getting this early on is because the slow helps us keep people within range of our abilities, especially that E and that Q. Because if you're using that Q without being in flight, you're going to be locked up in a spot, right? You cannot move. So people can just run away from it. But when they're slowed, it gives you a higher chance of getting that burst damage off. That deals damage based on the maximum health. Also remember that you can use all of your abilities while you're in flight. But most importantly, your Q. It does slow you down when you're using the Q, so if you're using it to chase somebody with, wait using your Q until you are close enough. This is a good example of what happens right here. If they have high mobility, they have flashes up or something, they can just, flash out of the ultimate. And you saw that Yone turned red for a little bit right here, but he was able to ult out. If he did not do that, he would have gotten executed. And that would have given us a lot of stacks. But you can see, you can pretty much try to keep the stacks at the same level of your CS, preferably a bit higher, because it's easier to get. At this point in the game, you just have to damage enemy champions with abilities and you get stacks. And also for kills, but you should try to aim to have high stacks like you aim to get high CS per minute. Like with CS, it's okay to get like 7 CS per minute or above, but stacks you should be able to get, at least like the same as the timer. So right now we have 180 stacks and there's 18 minutes in the game. This is what you should be aiming for in the mid game. Of course, in the early game, it's not possible most of the time, because you will get attacked, when you try to farm. You get destroyed in the lane by difficult matchups, but in the mid game, it should be possible. If you're not able to farm passive stacks, you're not able to scale up. Using that Q in the flight, you can see how big of a difference it makes when we also have the Rylai's that also help slowing down the target. We can see that yellow bar right above the ultimate icon displays how close we are getting to that upgraded mega ultimate. As I said, for every 75 passive stacks, it is going to get upgraded for a one-time use. After you use that mega ultimate, you would have to collect another 75 stacks to get that ultimate again. But preferably you want to keep that massive ultimate before an eventual fight. Now we got the Archangels that also instantly upgraded because we had enough stacks. That's why you don't have to get the tier as the first item. Because by the time you have enough gold to upgrade it to the Archangel as your third item, it is going to be fully stacked. And never buy that before the Rylai's. The Rylai's does help out a ton with the CC, but also the tankiness. The reason I did not keep the Q channeling right there was because he would be able to get within range and then just insta-ult me. He's playing some kind of weird full damage set build, so I'll just get one shot the moment I get within range. Still end up dying, but we also got the kill right here. The problem is that if we cancel out the Q and it goes on a cooldown, he'll be able to one shot us before we could do anything. So make sure that you also kite pretty well. which can be pretty difficult to do if you're not in flight while using your Q, because that is going to make you a stationary target, meaning that you cannot move, so people can just run at you. But we got like the 3 core items that you play for, and this is really where he starts to become a massive problem for the enemy team. He's super strong right now, and he just becomes more insane as the game progresses. I see that massive Giga ultimate is ready to go, almost. So now you just have to look for a good fight, preferably a team fight. You drop down that ultimate. Even though you're maybe only aiming at like 1 or 2 targets, you'll end up hitting the entire enemy team, because of the insane distance it covers. I'm still going to the side lane because I want to make sure I'm farmed up well, and also keep the passive stacks going. We can fly in right here, coming in from a good angle. Look at that insane ultimate, guys. You saw that massive hitbox it had on the first cast of that ultimate. Now it suddenly becomes a lot more difficult for the opponents to dash out or flash out. And even if they do, that Giga ultimate is still going to catch them. But that is the power of the Aurelion Soul when he gets to scale up. Scaling up is the big problem though. But if you play like the way I do this game right here, you will succeed in most of the games. Of course, some games are going to be insta-lost when your teammates just get absolutely stumped. But as long as you can manage to farm up well and also stack up the passive, get to that 3 atom power spike, you should still be able to do a lot of stuff. Now we go for the death cap. If they have a lot of MR, you can just go for the void staff at this point. So now if you're playing against a super tanky team, usually you want to get the void staff. And this version of Aurelion Soul, of course, also really good at shredding down tanks, because every single time that Q deals that extra bit of burst damage, it is based on the maximum health, and that is also going to increase based on your stacks. Halfway to getting that ultimate upgrade. So if possible, before like a massive fight starts, try to get that Giga ultimate ready. Because if you don't have that, you don't get to abuse that insane power. See that massive distance you can also cover with your W now, as you have so many stacks. You can just keep it going, guys. It's insane. Also, if you don't know when your Q is going to deal that burst damage, when you're Qing somebody, you can see that little animation loading up. When it's fully loaded, that means that the passive, or like the Q, is proccing. I'm not going to fly into him because I'll just get one shot. To get a spill, he's going for like a full one shot build. But it's also super squishy, so I just have to keep the distance. Dropping down that ultimate. Unfortunately, that was not the Giga ultimate because we don't have enough stacks, but it is going to come up soon. Also have to be careful, you know. When you see a low HP target and you don't know where the rest of the players are, be really careful. You just laser them and they are gone. Nothing they can do about it. And that Sarah's Embrace shield also coming in clutch. Of course, they also buffed that. I think it was at the start of the season where they changed it, so that's also a must-have item. Also because it's a champion that can use a lot of mana, So of course you want to have a big enough mana pool in order to be able to utilize your entire kit. Giga Mega Ultimate ready to go. When it's ready, make sure that you're pinging it for your team so they also know. And now we can just look for a good fight. To drop that ultimate, you hit the entire enemy team. And you also get that massive knock up. Look at that E hitbox compared to in the early on in the game, guys. It's ridiculous. It just costs the entire minion wave now. They just put it down and then you can just run away if you want to. And the good thing here is that it also, you know, increases the execute threshold. So it was super low to start off with, but now it's actually pretty high. If I remembered right, Syndra's execute threshold on her fully upgraded ultimate, like when she has all the passive stacks that she needs, I think it was around 15%. Yours can go even higher. Because you can just keep stacking. There's no limit to the amount of passive stacks that you can get. The only thing that limits you is the game time, of course, but if the game extends, you'll also be able to get a lot more stacks, and then you get to see how insane that E is. Remember, for maximum DPS, make sure that you are in flight while using your Q. It does slow you down a little bit, so keep that in mind as well. You see that ultimate actually hit the entire team. Entire team just getting hit by one random ultimate, and before they even get to participate in the fight, they already lost a lot of HP. Teammates doing the Baron, so we can just have some fun in the mid side, getting some more passive stacks on the Lee Sin. And there goes his Morph, just with a Q alone here. It is just insane, like it honestly feels like, you know, another Kassadin, except for there's a lot more counterplay against Aurelion even in the late game. Because without his W, he doesn't really have, you know, real mobility. If he gets CC'd, he cannot use his W. So that's counterplay, but he's also super strong in the late game. So you can say that even though he might be annoying to play against, he's not as obnoxious compared to something like a level 16 Kassadin. But definitely a champion that I have picked up as well, and if you're also looking for, you know, another super strong late game champion to add to your champion pool, then this is something I can recommend. That was indeed a pretty risky fight for us to take. The support went down. So see, all we have to do is like stay in a safe position behind and then just laser beam whoever gets close. You don't have to focus the carries because your Q sort of makes your carry with consistent DPS. So if there's a tank that's frontlining for the enemy team, you can just focus them down too. But still be careful, because if you do get caught out, for example you get kicked into the enemy team by Lee Sin, it usually means that you're toast, because you're not getting out. Your W does not work if you're getting hard CC'd. So that is not a reliable tool to escape with, most of the time. You see that absolutely ridiculous damage on that Q, and also that shield really baiting out a lot of stuff this game. People never expect that shield that you're getting from the Sarah's Embrace. Giga ultimate ready to go. Seems like we don't have to use it just yet here. We can also reset because we're sitting on a lot of gold. And then we can just TP back. So this right here is the full build Aurelion Soul, guys. This is the ultimate late game dream you're hoping of when you're playing this champion. This is what fun looks like. Just one ultimate can, you know, nullify the entire enemy team. You see that ridiculous damage. That is absolutely nuts, man. Just insane. And also, it's so hard to play against it. Of course, if you get within range of Aurelion Soul, you can do stuff, but if his team is peeling him well, you know, protecting him, he can dish out so much damage. We almost reached 500 stacks too. So you can see the abilities are just insane right now. But this was how to play the reworked Aurelion Soul. Really hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, guys, and see y'all next time.